know, I'm not one to talk, but I'd like to think I'd have something better than an Among Us reference as my last word before my throat was ripped out by bloodthirsty mutants. Anyway, what's happening, fuckers? It's the spooky month once again, so we're diving into the world of survival horror. Not the crashed in the Andes and have to eat your friend kind, but rather looking at the original Dead Space, considered one of the best games of the genre. With a remake coming out soon, there's no better time to go back to 2008 and see if the original still holds up. So, let's get into it. Dead Space is a third-person shooter and survival horror game, and one of the top 3 things that really spike my blood pressure. You play as Isaac Clarke, a perfectly normal-looking man, who after crashing onto the mining ship Ishimura, discovers it has been infested by the population of Norwich, also known as the Necromorphs. You are tasked with making your way through the winding hallways of the Ishimura, kneecapping its new inhabitants, while trying to unravel the mystery of how it all relates to a recently discovered artifact that gives people dementia. Dead Space combines both elements of the survival horror and shooter genres. Limited ammo is combined with necromorphs requiring the removal of multiple limbs to kill, which is a lot more difficult when some long-armed freak is sprinting at you, while your pants fill with shit. Honestly, when one of these things pops out of a random vent, I get a little spooked. Dead Space expertly walks the tightrope between these genres. It avoids the pitfalls of lesser survival horror titles, managing to keep the player on edge even when they are able to take these Lovecraftian horrors to Funky Town. It understands how to build tension, combining limited movement with long dark corridors with flickering lights, filled with the spookiest sound imaginable, which makes the moment some new ungodly horror gibbies itself through the ceiling all the more terrifying, almost making you forget it can be turned into meat with a good stamp. The game offers a variety of weapons that, while they vary in terms of effectiveness, are satisfying to use, though that might be because I enjoy any game where you can remove somebody's head from range. Another good move was the removal of the UI, with all vital information displayed on Isaac's back, which helps to keep the screen uncluttered, and lets you focus on the abomination that's right in front of you. I also think that the decision to not have Isaac speak was also a fantastic move. It would probably ruin the atmosphere if he was popping off with shit like,
"Make us whole again."
Are you looking at your twat? I'll snap your fucking jaw off and happy slap you for you ugly mutant bastard.
However, I do have some minor gripes with Dead Space. The camera feels way too close, and has an FOV which severely limits what's visible. I appreciate how it works towards building tension, since you never know what's behind you. However, I can't say I was ever spooked by anything approaching from behind. More so pissed off when said funny creature treats me like a fucking fruit, after slapping me in the ass. This is combined with Isaac's hand-to-hand abilities being akin to punching in a dream, so when you run out of ammo, and you will, because this is a survival horror title, the gangbang will begin. Beyond that, I struggle to find many issues with Dead Space that aren't incredibly minor. The game's upgrade system requires the use of power nodes scattered across the ship. However, I could never find enough to actually upgrade my shit in any significant way, though that may be because I have fucking dog vision. Additionally, the game's ragdoll engine has moments when it gets a bit quirky, pinging across the room, or doing its best fish impression. However, this leads to unintentional comedy gold, as there is something about Isaac's legs being sucked into orbit that's really fucking funny. Dead Space absolutely nails its presentation, both in terms of graphics and sound design. The game looks fantastic, especially for a game released 14 years ago, and does a great job in creating a dark, intimidating atmosphere. The Ishimura offers an array of different environments, from the poster-covered walls of the crew's living quarters, to the creepy baby walls of the medical bay. Dead Space sells the idea of a lived-in ship in which something horrendous has taken place, and creates a dank industrial environment that is intimidating to navigate. This is aided by the game's sound design, which is masterful in building a sense of unease and suspense. The game's background noises combine droning ambience with the sounds of inhuman abominations, akin to the sounds of a Midlands town centre at 3 AM, and do a great job in keeping the player on edge. As a result, when the game's score picks up, with its frantic drums and strings, it earns that moment when you brown yourself, rather than feeling cheap like in lesser horror titles, where loud noise equals scary.
Hey Vsauce, Michael here. Hey!
Overall, Dead Space is an absolute classic, and for good reason. Its combination of the shooter and horror genres blend together really well, and manages to offer both enjoyable gameplay and legitimate scares, and is definitely something I would recommend for anyone that enjoys a good spook. Anyway, I'll be off now. Turns out there weren't any aliens on the ship at all. It was the fucking Benedrills all along.